Alright guys, Mike here. So, airbrushing metallics. I take it a lot of you have probably already seen BuyPainted's Dreadknight tutorial, where he talks about airbrushing metallics, and that if you want to airbrush metallics, because they behave a bit differently, you know, there's a few more steps you have to sort of do, or there's a different way of doing it. And what he suggests is that you mix your bulk and metal, for example, with glaze medium. Valero do a bunch of mediums. I know other companies do it as well, but I've got some model colour glaze medium. This is like a very thin, like milky substance. Now, what this is made for, it allows you to thin paint to a ridiculous level, far beyond what you could use with water. You couldn't thin paint with water the same amount that you could with this. But the whole point is if you thin the paint enough, then you know that when you paint it on, it's barely gonna affect the colour of the miniature. So so that's where glazing comes from. You can paint your miniature, and then if you want to say make a uniform colour, or make everything become a bit more uniform, or you want to slightly tint the colour of something, you'd use a glaze, because a glaze is so transparent, so thin, that you have to build up layer after layer after layer before it really starts to take effect. And the only way to do that with normal acrylic paint would be to thin it loads, but obviously if you thin it with water, it all breaks off and becomes nasty after a while. So glaze medium can let you thin. You can use 12 drops of this to a single drop of paint and it'll still work. But yeah, BuyPainted suggests using glaze medium and also just with your general thinner. So I've got a little flow improver. See, that's just 1 part water, 20 parts water to 1 part of the flow improving solution. But basically, he says you mix your paint with glaze medium and thinner or water. But he doesn't say how much, because it is a case of it depends. Really does depend. But I've experimented, and I did the following recipe. I basically had some old bulk and metal lying around. It was like half a tub, and it was quite thick, a bit thicker than it would be normally. And then so I've taken this bulk and metal out, and I've mixed it with an equal part of glaze medium and another equal part of the flow improver. So it's a 1 to 1 to 1 of each. Now, when spraying that, you can lower the pressure of your airbrush to about 15 to 20 psi, because it's very thin. And then you spray it on, and you're doing it from like this, you're not doing it from far away, you just put it on, and just, don't let it pool too much. But it's not that big a deal. The main thing to worry about is the fact that because of all the glaze medium you've added in, it's going to take ages to dry, and this is why it works. This is why it's a good thing to do. It's why I guess BuyPainted suggested it, because if you normally spray bulk and metal, if you just thinned it with water and stuff, what you often find is that through an airbrush, it'll become speckly and sparkly. And I think that's because when the paint's coming out and it's hitting the model, it's drying very quickly, probably a lot quicker than it would if you were applying it by hand with a brush. And so you get this sort of sparkliness because the paint hasn't had time to settle, and all the flecks of metal paint pigment inside it haven't managed to sort of dry in a nice uniform layer and self-align. So adding all that glaze medium to the mixture means that when you airbrush it, the paint will go on and it'll look a bit weird, but then as it dries, and it takes a long time to dry, but as it dries, it gets to self-align and it all sorts itself out. So in the end, you get this is quite a good example. You get this really smooth, shiny finish, and that's just bulk and metal. I just don't think you can get that kind of finish with a brush unless you paint very thin layers over a very long time. But basically, that's the whole idea, I think, of using glaze medium. And I didn't know that. I've done bulk and metal for an airbrush before, and yeah, it came out a bit speckly, but so BuyPainted videos sort of taught me a thing or two. So that's what I've done with my Dreadknight. I've basically gone across the whole thing. Now, I did mix a bit of black paint in as well, but I sort of didn't mix it well enough, and overall it's only come out a slightly bit darker than normal bulk and metal anyway, so which is fine. So if you want to airbrush metallics, especially the GW metallics, I think this is really geared towards, because they look quite smooth. use glaze medium and and water as well to thin it, and then just be prepared to wait for them to dry. And that's the other thing, is try not to handle them whilst they're drying. So it's a bit tricky because you're not sure where to hold the miniature as you're airbrushing it. But you can see at the bottom there's a bit of a mar in there and stuff where I've put it down and it's stuck, but that's fine because you're not going to see that bit. So that's how you would airbrush and do the base coat. So I've done that on everything, and then I've gone back with just a straight Bodkin metal and just touched up the highest areas and the highlights to try and start off this sort of shading process. So the next thing I'm going to have to do is darken the metal. Like, for example, these two pieces, they're like the same colour, but that's pretty much the, after I put a mithril silver highlight and stuff, that's how silvery that's going to be. Where these legs are they need to be a lot darker, and we need the contrast bit. Hang on, if I get this out. So that shin pad really doesn't stand out against the leg, does it? When really it should. I want the leg mechanic part to be a lot darker. If you look on the box art itself, it's almost black. And because I messed up in the beginning stage, I didn't really get that dark base that, say, BuyPainted did in this tutorial. But as a result, I've been experimenting, and don't be afraid to experiment. I've got this spare sprue here. I've been just spraying all day in all sorts of different paints to get all sorts of results. But basically, I've come to the conclusion that if you use Tamiya Smoke X19, which is a great paint to have. If anyone, go down to your local model store, they're most likely to carry Tamiya, pick up some, because it's amazing for doing metal, to doing oily, greasy metal. It's like a wash. It's like Devlin Mud and Bad Black mixed together, but it dries with a gloss coat. So if you apply it to metallics, it keeps them, because metallics are kind of glossy and shiny. It stops, it keeps it looking metally, and because greases, or it's that oily sort of look. So what I'm going to do, and I've tested this before, I'm going to spray straight this straight from the airbrush. I'm not really going to thin it. Well, I might thin it a little bit actually. We'll see. Over these parts that I want, like there's the leg, and I want this to be darker. And then afterwards, if it's not dark enough, I'll then go back and do a Bad Black wash as well. What you could do is that you could paint these bits here mithril silver first, because then this will sort of weather it and give you that sort of oily, greasy look. But I'll just do that afterwards. So I'm using clamps to make sure that I can grip onto something. I'm going to grip onto this end bit here, because this bit's going to get glued in the model, so you're not going to see it anyway. So it doesn't matter if the clamps grip too hard and scratch the paintwork. And I've got my airbrush set to 15 at the moment, so I'm just going to turn that up a bit, because we're going to be doing it quite thick. Put it up to 25 psi. And also, as I said, if this isn't dark enough, what I'll do is I'll do the Bad Black, but I'll also do the Bad Black through the airbrush, because you can airbrush the wash as well. And what that's going to do is it's going to help it dry quicker, and because you're applying it a lot thinner, and it'll be drying quicker and stuff, it's not going to pull up as much in the recesses. Still will, but not as much as you say with a brush. Hear that? That's the sound that thick paint makes when it comes out of an airbrush. Anyway, so hopefully you can see this, and we'll just literally just cover this leg in it. I said it doesn't really matter if it gets a bit OTT and pools and stuff, because this stuff is kind of meant to. It will just make it look greasy and grimy, and will hopefully darken the metal overall. Also, this paint smells amazing. I'm not sure what kind of chemicals Tamiya puts into this stuff, but it's a lot. Probably shouldn't be smelling it, so I probably put my extractor on, but then you might struggle to hear me. As I said, this is shiny, so it's going to give a nice shiny effect overall, which you might not want, which is why you can use something like Bad Black to get rid of it and tone it down. So there we go. Let's compare it to the other one. There's the two. Now granted, this is still going to be drying, but you can automatically see that's a bit darker now. So again, you can just like do that again let it dry and apply another layer. But I think what I'll do is let this dry, and then I'll apply a Bada black wash to it with the airbrush as well, and that will really make it dark. So I'm going to do this on all the parts that need to be darkened, so things like these pistons and stuff which are meant to be dark. There's only like a handful of bits I want this sort of colour. Right, next thing I want to show you quickly, if I can. Just going to quickly get rid of this excess. In fact, actually, I'll clean this out and I'll come back in a sec. See you in a bit. Right, so just clean the airbrush out, and I've got the next part ready. Now, I've been experimenting with different ways of tinting the colour of the metal so it becomes blue, because there's these granites have that kind of bluish hint to them, and I've been experimenting with all sorts. But basically, I remembered I had some old GW blue ink. I've just put it in there for ease of use, and I know that they don't do inks anymore, but I know you can get a hold of, Valero do their own ink line and stuff like that, and I imagine this works the same. But basically, using again the airbrush, I'm just going to put ink directly into the colour cup, no thinners. We're going to very carefully use this to tint the metal. Now the great thing about the ink is it dries glossy, so you don't get this matte blue. You want it to, so it retains the shininess of the metallic piece. Now, as you can see, that's a bit OTT. Really, you barely want to pull this thing back, and if you do it too far, you're just going to go and flood the area, blue ink everywhere. It's not going to work. So if your airbrush has one of these at the end, you can use this and turn it, and essentially adjust how far back you can pull the things. I can't pull the airbrush back any more than it is now. I've also turned the pressure down on the compressor to about 15 psi, because this is pretty delicate work. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this blue on the bottom, because there's the knee pad like that, and you want the blue on the bottom to get this effect. So if you can see, very carefully, I said you don't want to overdo this, and I'm also going to be adding black afterwards. So there we go. You have one blue thing, blue shadow or something like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be doing that on all the pieces that I can to get that blue sort of tint. And then afterwards I'm going to use black. And now, instead of using a black ink for this, I want the black to be matte. I want the shadow areas to be a matte colour. So instead I'm going to use black paint, 1 drop of black paint to 5 drops of thinner, shoot it at the same PSI. In fact, I'll pause the video, do some more of this with this ink, and I'll come back and I'll show you. See you in a bit. Okay, so I finished doing all the blue parts, and they're all sitting over here. Just looking cool. Got to be careful when doing this method. It's very easy to go overboard with the blue, and I feel like in some places I might have. But then this next step hopefully should tone down some of the blue anyway. But basically, I've pre-mixed the black. I've got 15 drops of thinner to 3 drops black, so it's a 5:1 ratio. Spraying at 15 psi again, which allows us to do quite fine detail work. I've also removed the cap on my airbrush, so be careful if you do the same. You don't stab yourself or bend your needle. But hopefully, if you see the example of this, this is quite blue on the end. Hopefully, this black will tone down the blue and give us the look we're after. There we go. Let's see if you can see that. Come on. There. That's the effect we're going for. Now, I've done all this before doing the mithril. Like, I haven't done the mithril highlight either. So if it is a bit OTT, you could probably get away with dusting the mithril silver. Once you've done the highlight, just dust slightly over where the blue and black areas are, just to sort of knock it back a bit. So hopefully that'll look sweet when I do the mithril. In fact, what I'll do is I'll I'm running out of time actually. So yeah. Anyway, I hope guys you find that informative. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. Any comments or questions from me would be very welcome. Alright then guys, I'll see you next time. Bye bye.